Ladies and gentlemen, our presentation will begin in 1 minute. Please find your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We would ask for all of our guests to please remain seated while the regimental commander, Cadet Colonel Christopher Baker, calls the regiment to attention and prepares the regiment for today's ceremony.
Regiment, attention! Prepare for the regimental accolade. Sir. 3 words to live by. Duty, honor, country, sir. Take seats.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the GMC Board of Trustees, members of the 146th Corps of Cadets, Lieutenant General William B. Caldwell IV, President of GMC, faculty and staff at Georgia Military College, I would like to welcome you to our ceremony honoring the legacy of Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr. I am Prep School Cadet Kaylee Bell, a member of the GMC Prep School Class of 2025, and I will be your narrator for today's ceremony. Georgia Military College extends a special welcome to the guests and dignitaries who have joined our 21st President, Lieutenant General and Reverend Dr. Caldwell on this historic day. We would like to recognize Mr. George Hogan, GMC Board of Trustees Chairman, members of our GMC Board of Trustees, and members of the GMC Foundation. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, please stand, face the flag, and place your right hand over your heart as Prep School Cadet Miles Alexander leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Allow me to provide a brief history of Martin Luther King Day. It was officially observed as a national public holiday for the first time in 1986. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia. His father served as a pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, a church that had been founded by Martin Luther King Jr.'s maternal grandfather. He attended local public schools in Atlanta, where he excelled. He entered nearby Morehouse College at age 15 and graduated with a bachelor's degree in sociology in 1948. Martin Luther King Jr. was ordained as a Baptist minister at age 18. After graduating with honors from Crozer Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania in 1951, he attended Boston University and earned a doctoral degree in systematic theology in 1955. Martin Luther King Jr. is remembered as one of the principal leaders of the American Civil Rights Movement and as a prominent advocate of nonviolent protest. Dr. King's nonviolent challenges to segregation and racial discrimination in the 1950s and 60s helped convince many Americans to support the cause of civil rights in the United States. He was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts. Even before he was assassinated in 1968, Dr. King was a worldwide symbol for the struggle towards universal racial equality and as a symbol of hope for the oppressed. He was, in the fullest sense of the words, a good man, and we honor his memory today with this ceremony. Dr. King once said, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" The Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service is a part of the President's national call for service that calls for Americans from all walks of life to work together to provide solutions to our most pressing national problems. Today, we honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and all of the men and women who not only share his ideals, but act upon them daily. To paraphrase Dr. King, every person must decide whether to walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the 21st President of Georgia Military College, Lieutenant General William B. Caldwell IV.
First of all, on behalf of our Board of Trustees, Mr. Hogan, and all of our Alumni Association and our foundation, we want to say thanks for joining us today. Today is a very special day, as you all know, and I'm incredibly honored to have the privilege to be able to be the one to introduce our guest speaker. The guest speaker and I met in July of 1972. I know some of you are going, well, that's like 60 years ago. Yeah, that is right. That's about that long ago. We met and became very close friends and have remained so through the remainder of our lives. So to have him here today one more time for his third visit back to Georgia Military College, I could not be more excited. He literally embodies the values of the things that all of us have heard Dr. Martin Luther King talk about. So on this day today, when we think about the things that most people remember, where Dr. King would say, we want to live in a world where every person is judged by their values, their actions, and the impact they have on others, I couldn't think of anybody more appropriate who exemplifies those values than Dr. General Ron Johnson. For many of y'all, you don't realize it, from his humble beginnings growing up in Chicago, being raised by a single mom, to finding his way to the United States Military Academy at West Point, to moving on from there, serving an illustrious career, serving as the #2 commanding general for the United States Army Corps of Engineers, to then leaving there and moving on to the National Basketball Association. For all of you who are big basketball fans, probably remember the big scandal that occurred with the referees many years ago. Well, they needed somebody to come clean it up. And they turned to a West Point graduate, a retired general officer, a person of values, of character, a person of commitment and dedication. And they asked Dr., at that time, just General Johnson, if he would go and work for the NBA as their first senior vice president for referee operations. And over the next 5 years, he had that incredible task and responsibility to reinstate faith and belief and confidence in something people had always had before until that incident occurred. And then he'd go in there and become a professor. Throughout his life, he has mentored young men, young women. He believes in giving back. When you look at everything he's done in his career, others saw it. When the Secretary of the Army, he was looking for somebody to serve as a civilian aide here in the state of Georgia, they reached down and they touched Dr. General Ron Johnson. And they said, will you be my representative in the state of Georgia so that those things for which I, as the Secretary of the Army, cannot possibly get to in every state, you could be the one that would represent me and do that. That faith and belief that so many others have had in him. As you read through his biographical sketch, you'll see award and recognition after award and recognition, but not in one area, but in fact in a multifaceted kind of area. Everything from academics to mentoring to doing athletics, he's done it all. So today, I would ask you all to please join me in giving a warm welcome to General Dr. Ron Johnson.
I believe I have a captive audience. Well, thank you for that kind introduction, General and classmate Bill Caldwell. It's always great to be back here at Georgia Military College. This is my third trip. It's a long trip from Atlanta, but I took the scenic route today. It's always a privilege to be here surrounded by future leaders and thinkers. This is a special occasion as we reflect on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy and this year's theme, Change Continues with Us. So let me take you back to when I was a high school freshman, like many of you. It was 1968, and the world felt heavy with tension. On April 3rd, riots erupted after the assassination of one of my heroes, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That moment is seared in my memory forever. I remember riding the bus in Chicago and seeing that the no smoking signs had been altered by striking the S, and now the signs read, "No Mo King." I remember sitting in the dark in front of an open oven at home because my little sister had just come home and the power was out, and we sat in front of that oven to keep her warm. I remember watching my neighborhood burn as Molotov cocktails shattered storefronts. Those events shaped me. They showed me the fragility of hope and the strength of leadership. Dr. King's story has always been a guiding light for me, a testament to the power of perseverance, purpose, and vision. But leadership isn't just about grand speeches or national movements. It starts within. It starts with the stories we tell, the commitments we make to ourselves, and the actions we take when no one is watching. Let me share a personal story about the power of self-leadership and transformation. I grew up on the west side of Chicago in what many may call the wrong side of the tracks. My grandfather, the only steady provider in our home, passed away when I was young, and life changed dramatically. Then, my family lived in a single-parent, welfare-supported household. We moved often, never staying in one place for long to feel settled. Violence was a constant reality. I was shot at, robbed, and chased more times than I can count. Guess that's why I could run so fast. I could have let those circumstances define me, but even in hardship, I found people who believed in me. My high school was one of the best in the nation, and though I was only one of 50 black students in a school of 5,400, I found opportunities to lead. By my senior year, I was the brigade commander of the largest junior ROTC program in the city. One of the instructors were profoundly interested in my life, and I say he changed my life. Chief Warrant Officer retired Donald M. Lesh, a crusty retired warrant officer, suggested that I apply to West Point. My response to him was, West Point's for punks. But when he challenged me, when he implied that I might not be up to it, it lit a fire in me. I applied only because he dared me, and to my astonishment, I was accepted. That moment marked a turning point in my life. At West Point, I learned what it meant to lead, not just to command, but to live by values like loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. These aren't just words for me. They're principles to guide every decision, especially in challenging times. After graduation from West Point, my journey led me to become the second highest ranking engineer in the United States Army, later a senior executive in the National Basketball Association, then a professor of industrial engineering and chief of staff currently of the fastest growing and one of the most selective universities in the country, Georgia Tech. And, this is news, the 2025 Black Engineer of the Year. But my story isn't unique. It's proof that where you start does not determine where you end up. That brings me back to Dr. King's legacy and this year's theme. Change continues with us is a powerful reminder that leadership begins with each of us. It's about the small decisions, the daily commitments, and the courage to act with integrity. So, General Caldwell, I'm going to do a practical exercise, and I want to demonstrate to you that leadership isn't just about what you say, it's about what you do, because actions speak louder than words. Or as I like to say, when you're a leader, your video should match your audio. So let's try this. I want everybody here to make this A-OK sign, and I want you to repeat after me. Becoming a leader of character is important to me. I am an A-OK leader if my video matches my audio. Now I want you to take that A-OK sign and put it right here on your chin. Okay, for most of you, that's not your chin. That's your cheek. There's a very powerful but very simple lesson we all just learned from that. The lesson is this: people don't always follow what you say, but they will follow what you do. So as leaders of character, you got to assure that your actions align with your words. As I close, I want to challenge you to honor Dr. King's legacy by being the kind of leader who inspires others, not through titles or speeches, but through the example that you set. General Caldwell, Georgia Military College is shaping leaders of characters, and I'm grateful to be part of this journey with all of you. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being part of the change that continues with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cadet Colonel Christopher Baker, our regimental commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Grace Houghton, our 1st Battalion commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Morgan Hatcher, our 2nd Battalion commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Avery Lee, our 3rd Battalion commander, and Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Reese Small, our 4th Battalion commander, along with President Caldwell and Chairman of the GMC Board of Trustees, Mr. George Hogan, will present a saber to Major General Ron Johnson. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as GMC Prep Cadet Valerie Simmons recites our cadet prayer.
Please bow your head and join me in prayer. Almighty God, General of all life's forces, Commander of nature, we praise thy holy name. Visit thy presence upon us and all former GMC cadets, reinforce in us our quest for knowledge, integrity, and leadership. Instill in us humanitarianism and bless our enemy, whoever he might be. Extinguish from our daily lives greed and envy, and make us champions of right and ladies and gentlemen of honor. May we glorify thy name in victory and be courageous in defeat. Help us ever to think first of our comrades and secondly of ourselves and always of thee. Guide our footsteps and cleanse our minds. May we be first in the service of our country and first in thy service. Lead us, O Lord, that we might lead. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give Major General Johnson another round of applause. Sir, we thank you for your time with us today and for your service to our great country. This concludes today's 2025 Martin Luther King Day ceremony. Please travel safely, and may God continue to bless Georgia Military College and the United States of America. Character above all.